and welcome to Wires from the Deep, a Silo series podcast. Today is Friday, October 18, 2024, and you're listening to episode 15, What We Saw. I'm your host, Crystal, and my first order of business will be to make a big announcement, and it's kind of a sad one, and that is that my wonderful friend Kelly Severs, who was my best bud for season 1, unfortunately couldn't continue for season 2, and so the show will now be co-hosted by my friend and colleague, a former guest, Angela. Angela, you want to reintroduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Angela Traficante. I'm a fiction editor and a lifelong reader. I know Crystal from a bunch of work and personal projects, but when it comes to silo related things, last year I participated in her weekly reading and analysis of Wool, and I was previously a guest on this podcast. I love all fantasy and sci fi, dystopian, anything like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing season 2 of Silo and seeing what comes of the world building and the characters and everything else.
Yeah, so we've been on the show has been on hiatus for a while because we stopped when season 1 ended. I think it was last July, end of June or early July. I can't remember. It has been so long. And season 2 got delayed because of the writer's strike. I think they shut down production after a while, even though they were filming in London, or
Yeah, I
the
think they
United Kingdom.
did it in July.
Yeah, but we're back. The trailer finally came out this week, so that's what we're here to talk about. We're going to break down the trailer. So let's just get right into it. What did you think overall?
Um, Very, very exciting. I like that it really focused on like what I think will be the broad strokes of the season and wasn't too long or too detailed, but just teased enough of the interesting stuff to really get me thinking about it.
Yeah, actually, one of the first things I honed in on, and this is gonna sound silly, but I'm kind of a font snub. But I love the fonts that they use in this trailer. I,
Oh, I
I,
know.
it looked really
The whole
pretty.
series is great. Like
Yeah,
the posters and everything in the background of it. Like I love all the styling for that.
yeah, me too. It looks very sleek and modern and very, very sci-fi. It has a very nice sci-fi vibe. And I like the glowy. They keep like how like the first season, like the imagery was like that bright orange. So I like that they kept that for like the text in between scenes and stuff like that. I like that.
Yep.
So
I
because
love that general scheme overall because, like, I think it obviously they kind of picked that brownish orange for everything because I think it makes everything look a little rusty and dingy, but also I think it's just like a really great vibe for the entire show.
yeah, speaking of vibes, I like the whistling. It was like a very like Wild West kind of theme. And that's kind of what Juliet is going through right at the end of the like she's wandering out into the wilderness and she doesn't know what's going to happen next. So I like that.
I like that too. I also got some serious Hunger Games vibes from it, which I think is also like, a similar kind of story, dystopia going on here. Something's up with the general the mysteries and whatnot behind everything.
Yeah. Although I have to say, like I like the Western vibe, but at the same time, it brought back some bad memories of college because I majored in English. And I remember I took this one class. There were a bunch of like movie classes, and I was like, "Oh, I love movies and I love books, so I'm gonna take these English classes on movies." But one of them was Western focused, and like I don't know, a couple weeks into it, I was like, "Oh my god, I don't like studying westerns." Because like I guess like I hadn't really thought about it that we would have to watch a bunch of really old movies, and so we had to that was like our homework. We had to go watch really old westerns and then come to class and dissect them, and I was just like, oh my god, I don't like these movies.
I feel sort of the
Uh,
opposite. I grew up watching all those old
oh
westerns with my
really?
dad, so yeah, I'm like when I think about old westerns, I just think of like being hanging out with my dad on the weekends and cuddling
Oh
up and like watching TV. So yeah, I like that a lot.
yeah, I'm more like the like more current western kind of fan. Like I like Tombstone and True Grit and stuff like that. So I do like westerns. That's why I like the vibe. But yeah, just I also thought back to my old college days of having to pick apart old westerns. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. Okay, so the trailer opens with like lines from before. It's got like flashback lines. So Jules saying, "What's the big question?" and George saying, "What if everything you know was true was just one big lie?" And I think, is that a quote from the book? I can't remember. I know it's
I
from season
don't
one.
remember.
Yeah,
It is from season 1, definitely, but yeah, I don't remember if it was referenced exactly that way in the book.
yeah. So the in season one of the podcast, the concept was basically I was the book reader and Kelly was the non-book reader. She was like fresh to the story. It's almost like it's kind of flipped around a little because Angela has read the book more recently than me, and I read the book so long ago that I basically don't really remember um, most of the second half because I reread the first half or through the pages, which was this segment that we did where we're rereading a few chapters at a time and discussing it and making predictions for the show um, and how they were going to adapt it. But yeah, no, I don't remember a lot of. I basically
I
remember
wish
very broad strokes, but that's it. So we're going to be like two
yeah,
fresh perspectives.
I think so too. I wish I remembered more, but I will have to say my memory is horrible, so even though I did read the book more recently, we might have the same level of remembrance of it overall.
Yeah, and Angela and I are both avid readers, and we're both editors, so we read a ton every year. So a lot of stories move through our brains, and I watch a lot of TV. So yeah, I think yeah it'll be interesting. And then plus I think the books are just knowing what I know like overall it's kind of hard, I think, to adapt the way that he wrote the books onto the screen. So they're going to have to get pretty creative. So I think they're going to end up shifting things from like books two and three into maybe seasons two and maybe three before they start getting toward the end game. I don't know. It's going to be, I think, a fresh viewing experience for even people who've read the books. So that should be fun.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't read books 2 and 3, but I do know a little bit about what happens, and I think that in general, I think they're gonna be moving forward a lot of the backstory and the
Yeah.
development that
Yeah.
you get in the second half of Wool and also in the later books just to flesh out the world building in the show.
Yeah, plus the medium is different, so they have to present stories differently than books can, right? So okay, so the next part of the trailer is Bernard, and that's like a fresh scene, and he's saying for
Yeah,
as
this
long
is new.
yeah, and he's addressing everybody as mayor because he's wearing like that mayor necklace, right? And he says, for as long as we can remember, everyone that goes outside is killed by the dangerous toxins of an unsafe world. And Juliet Nichols asked to go outside. She was a fighter. So it sounds like he's like memorializing her because he says she died a hero to the silo, right?
Yeah. I think he's trying to put focus off of her. I think he wants to get her out of everyone's mind.
But actually, at the same time, like I don't know why he would choose to do that because I feel like if you make her into a hero, that kind of makes her into a martyr, right? Because like I don't know, like what? Why would he say that she's a hero to the silo if she went over the hill and I actually she didn't need to clean, right? Because somebody had just gone out. The sheriff had just gone out recently. But see, I don't even remember. I haven't rewatched the season one yet. So, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not sure I
scanning our little.
understand. I'm not sure I understand why he would call her that. Maybe he's
I
just trying to
think
head it off because I mean later on he does say what he's afraid of, right? And we'll get to that. But
Yeah,
um,
I was gonna say, I think the fact that he's very clearly trying to talk about how she died,
yeah.
everyone who goes outside is killed, she died, that sort of thing. I think he's really, at least from what in the speech that he's giving, I think he's really trying to
Mm,
put on that she's dead
she's
and
dead.
that that's
Yeah.
it. And I mean, I think he's just trying to cast her in a possibly trying to cast her in a nice light just because he knew everyone liked her and he doesn't want to take any more heat for what happened. But I don't know.
And actually, yeah, you're right because the next line is from Shirley, and she says they're lying. She might still be out there, still alive. So I guess that becomes I guess that becomes the hot topic, right? Is she dead? She gets over the hill, but they can't see past the hill, right? So
Yeah.
maybe the government line is that she's dead, and the rebellion is based on the fact that she's still alive. So
I think some important things too here that I just wanted to bring up right before we moved on into the like the second half of the trailer is that at this time when you're getting Bernard's speech, you're also seeing Juliet walk
yeah,
over tons of corpses.
corpses.
Well,
Yeah,
well, skeletons really, not
yeah,
corpses, but which I don't think we saw at the end of the first season, right? Like we saw her crest the hill,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they
And
did a
they
zoom
panned
out,
out, right?
but
Yeah,
really we're like this is a definitely an indication of like what's to come. Like we're seeing something horrible happening here at the same time as Bernard seems to be trying to avoid something horrible, like by
yeah,
giving like a rousing speech.
yeah. Okay, so after that, it goes to Billings. He says the lies have to stop, and I think this was where they showed, um, like it looked like this looks like an abandoned cafeteria, and it's got lies written on the wall screen. It doesn't
Yep.
look like something that's been like in Juliet's silo. So this looks like the one that she's going to, right? Because
Yeah,
it
I
looks
think that
really
because
old.
yeah, she's like breaking glass before that and stuff, so she's clearly breaking into something. This looks very old.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Looking at the size of it, though, do you think what is she breaking into? Like a door, or is it like a somebody else's helmet? It's kind of big, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
looking at it. Yeah, I think it's
I thought
probably a
initially she was breaking into her own helmet, but she's not because right before that it actually does show her taking off her helmet.
yeah.
And then she's breaking into
It
glass
is it is
with like
curved though.
yeah. She might just be breaking into the door to get into the silo maybe. We don't know how they're secured at this point or like if they are.
I don't know. Not now that I keep looking at it, I think she is breaking into her helmet. Although it just looks like plain glass. So I don't know. And like that's what they reveal at the end, right? That it's actually a screen. So I don't know. I'm split.
Yeah, but it does show that lie is on the screen, and then it shows her clearly upset.
Yeah. That's one thing that I remember from this part of the book is minor spoiler. But I remember like didn't she dunk like a really old pot of soup on herself or something? Am I remembering that right?
I don't even know.
I think
I
she did.
mostly remember the scene of her getting into the silo, which I don't really want to discuss,
Yeah.
but um yeah, I wish I could. I'll leave it at I don't really remember that specific thing. I remember a lot else about these scenes,
Hmm.
but not that one.
Okay, so next.
An interesting line from Sims. I didn't think he would be the one to
Yeah, I was
say
thinking that too.
this.
Because he doesn't sound like the security guy who's like super concerned, right? He sounds really calm.
Yeah, he's saying just for the people listening, he's saying people are saying it's time for a rebellion. Rebellion's a great word here. Like I love
Yeah.
anytime I hear rebellion, I'm like, "Oh, I'm immediately way more interested in the plot."
Oh, and then Dr. Nichols, which is Julia's dad, he says you can't control what she means to people. So yeah, so I guess that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Is that that's what they're rebelling over? Is I get because like her being alive is like a symbol of hope, right? People hope that they can go back outside because she made it over the hill, and so
Yeah, and the important thing happening in the trailer itself over behind these lines is that paper that's fluttering down
yeah,
everywhere that says
which
Juliet lives,
yeah, which is
or at
fired
least
from
Bernard's
the
does.
which is fired from the bottom. It's fired from the down deep because they show like something exploding at the bottom and shooting up to the top, and then they show the paper, right? So I think
Yep.
basically that the message Juliet lives on all those little pieces of paper. they fired that from the down deep and it rained down on the whole silo, which I thought was really cool. That was a really cool bit of imagery. I couldn't help thinking, oh my god, had to go make people write all that Julie lives over and over and over again on all those pieces of
And
paper.
also, oh my god, the waste of
I know.
paper.
Oh my god, I was thinking that too.
But I think that's the point.
Yeah, yeah,
It really would presumably, it would really catch people's attention
yeah,
in the
yeah,
silo, right? Like, paper is so precious that if you saw
yeah.
paper fluttering around, it might as well be $100 bills fluttering
Yeah,
around.
it's a huge deal in itself, right? And then to see the message is probably one of those heart thumping things, right? Okay, and then and actually there the text on the screen says the survival of one and the hope of all. So I guess that's what everybody is pinning all their hopes on is her being alive. And
Yeah, I
then
think that it's one of those, like, if she's alive, if she somehow made it, everything we know is therefore a lie, and we
hmm
should be rebelling against it.
hmm
The next scene is rather interesting though, because we see her, is that Juliet underwater?
I
It
think
must
so
be.
because we saw her go down and find the water. Like she was scared of the water, right? In season one,
Yep.
she went down into the cavern that George had told her about, and she found out that there was water there. So if she's underwater and she's not in her silo, so she must be in the bottom of this new silo, right?
Yeah,
That
but
she's
we know that
approaching.
her silo had the water under it, so presumably if she's in a new silo, it might also have, like, the same setup.
Yeah, yeah. It actually it is her because she's wearing that orange jumpsuit that they show her in. So.
Oh yeah, you're right. And then we have, oh
And
my
then
gosh.
I forget where it was, but there was like a shot of some guy climbing up a steel ladder.
That's right after this, yeah.
Yeah,
Is
so
that do we know him?
it kind of
Wait, I
looks
have to
like
take a look.
George, but I'm not sure because I don't know why he would they would be showing him. But it kind of looks like him.
To go back a little, to my memory thing, the fact that I can even recall these people's faces and names is a little shocking to me,
Well, it
so
did.
considering I watched this, like, a year ago.
I watched the trailer earlier and it's got captions on it and it said George, so I was like, okay, yeah, that's his name.
Yeah,
um,
so climbing a ladder, then we see what clearly looks like some conspiring and concerned
yeah,
looks and things like that.
there's Martha. Yay! Glad to see these old people back. Like I liked seeing Shirley like early on in in the trailer.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. And there's this random shot of Jules, I think, like, talking to someone. Was this supposed to be a flashback or something? Like,
I don't know. I can't really tell who she's talking to, but they're wearing the same
but
color
she's, like,
shirt
wearing,
as yeah. It
yeah, I
must be
don't
a
know. I don't know what that's
flashback.
supposed to be.
Like cuz I think we've seen her in this shirt before. So, it must be a memory. I'm
And then
not
her
sure though.
dad. This ooh, they do show this shot of the silo power going off
What is
very
that?
briefly after that shot of her dad.
Oh. Oh. So there's this very brief flash of Knox, like he's swinging something. I like that one.
Yeah.
So it looks like Judge Meadows, there's like this really quick shot of somebody leaning over the railing and dropping something. It kind of looks like Judge Meadows, but I'm not sure. I'd have to go look back at her hair, but I don't know what that's. Okay, so at 1:45 or so, is that Billings with his wife? I don't remember what his wife looks like because it kind of looks like Jules too.
I was wondering that too.
So one other thing too, guns were a big deal in the first season, right? And they show
Yeah.
soldiers with guns here, actually firing too. So I guess things get pretty bad. Okay, so let's go to Bernard at the end because
At the screen.
at the end of season 1 we see him go into a room using his little 18 fob, right? That little red key fob that he had. And he went into something. And I'm assuming this is that
It's this
room,
room.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
and he's looking
Because
at a scene of
he's watching
the
Jules walk because you can see all the skulls. So I think Because I
He's either watching Jules walk or he's watching like a camera feed of the other silo entrance. I guess it's hard to tell.
no, I think he's watching her walking over there because remember, he had started watching her cleaning up in the cafeteria with other people, and then once he saw
Oh, that's
that she
true.
wasn't
Yeah.
dying, that he went and he left, right? He ran down to that room and he went and he watched, and he went in there, and that's where he spent the rest of the thing. I think that's where they ended it. But yeah, so I think he goes down here and he must be watching some other feed that he has access to, right? Because he's talking about how he's not scared of the rebellion, he's afraid of what she saw. So he must have gone to try to see what happened. But like, it's the skull, so he must be watching from the perspective of the silo that she goes to.
I definitely agree with that. I think he's watching her path. I just can't tell from this shot if it's like literally her camera, like as if he has access to her feed, or if there are perhaps
Oh.
like other cameras that we don't know about
Well,
that he
I
has
think it
access
is
to.
hers because if you look at it,
Yeah.
it's jiggling, right? Like it's like showing her walking. Um, like it's very brief, but you
Oh,
can
I'm like
see it.
I'm going frame by frame, so like I don't see
Yeah,
that.
I
I'll
was
just
doing
play
that
it.
too, but if you press play, it's jiggling a little like she's walking. So I think it's
Mm.
perspective of her.
Yeah, so and then there's like a brief flash of something right after Bernard's face, but it's indecipherable what it is.
Yeah, it's like
It's almost
staticky,
like it's the
right?
feed going out or something, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah,
And then you get my favorite scene of the trailer.
with Solo, right?
Yes, with Solo. Man, I
So
was so excited when I saw this.
yeah, me too. I love Solo. And like we're not gonna spoil anything, and like I guess, and it's not really a spoiler to say his name or anything because it's been revealed that that's the name of Steve Zahn's character. Because when they went to Comic Con, they were referring to him as Solo in their interviews and things like that. So, but yeah, like what did you think of his eyes?
Oh, I loved it. I loved his
Yeah,
entire look. I was so excited. I loved the way he said the line.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm I am super excited for this character.
I love the way the thing on the door slowly opens to reveal him too. That was really cool. Cause like one is brown and one is blue.
Yeah, I'm like taking a closer look right now and I'm like, yeah. I think it'll be a nice visual indicator that will add to his personality. I don't
Yeah.
want to like go too much into it, but
It also
yeah.
kind of feels like symbolism though, right? This like dead silo, live silo, like because there's a two contrasting silos. Like his brown eye looks kind of dead, and his blue eye looks very much alive. So I kind of like that. It's like, and I guess that was basically it for the trailer. And he says, "You try to open that door again, and I'm gonna kill you." So he's hostile. I imagine
Yeah, there's a
it's
brief scene right after him where it shows an empty doorway that where you can see some writing that says "We will," but then it cuts off, so you can't see anything
oh,
else
I see
there,
it.
which is kind of cool. But I believe, like, I'm curious to see, like, I'm really excited for the other silos, like styling, because I think it's gonna tell you a lot in the background about like kind of what happened there. Like earlier in the we kind of didn't talk about this line, but earlier in the trailer, Jules says, "I need to know what happened here." And I think that we're going to see that. Like, and it's going to be a lot of background stuff that you get to read into.
You know what it says? It says we will get in sooner or later. Because there's the we, WIL, and then there's the L and the door open behind her, and then GE,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then
You're right.
IN, and then you can see the part of the S and the OON, and then there's like the E is cut off between the
Yeah.
doors, and then there's the R or, and then there's a little bit of the L, so I'm assuming it's or later, because sooner or later. So she's coming
Yeah. Very
from that
exciting.
door. Huh. Okay. Oh, so it's a message for him because it's behind her. And she's looking at him, right? You know what I mean? It's
I
written on the
I
door
just think
behind her
it
and she's looking at him. So I think it's a message for him in there. It's saying we will get into it. So he's barricaded himself somewhere and they're writing that message for him to read
I
because
didn't
he's
even
looking
think of
out.
that. I thought it was I thought it was something that, you know, whatever happened here, I thought maybe it was written then, kind of like the lies on the
Hmm.
cafeteria screen, but that's an interesting theory.
Because yeah, she's looking at him, and then they show because before that they show him like opening the
Yeah,
opening, and then it's
he
showing
comes
her
through there.
next, so that's what he sees, right? He's talking to her, and so that's what, yeah, I think the, yeah, and actually he closes it again, and you can see her through the view thing that he's looking through. Like they show it's like blurry, and he can just see a little bit of her, so he can see the message written there, so it's a message for him from other unknown persons. I guess they didn't eventually get in because he's still in there.
And yeah, that's the end of it.
Ah, okay. Well, we uncovered something. Yay. Or at least something that I hadn't picked up earlier. Although, to be fair, I was just watching it as like a viewer. I wasn't like picking it apart and freezing frames and everything. So Steve Zahn, have you seen him in anything? I feel like he's like some like one of those actors that you know from something, and he has a very like distinctive voice to me. I've seen him in Sahara, and I remember him from, he was one of the bookstore assistants in You've Got Mail, and yeah, he's got like the support guy kind of vibe for me. So he tends to be friendly, so in my mind at least.
Yeah, I don't know much about him. I've seen him in A Perfect Getaway, which is a thriller. A very good thriller, in fact. But that was a long time ago. I think that came out in like 2008 or 2009.
Hmm.
So I don't know much about him as an actor. I kind of have just my first impression of him from that trailer, and I already kind of love it though. So I'm kind of glad I don't know him because I want to go into it like
Mm,
fresh. I did,
yeah.
I will admit, I did do some reading online about Steve Zahn as Solo. And I did see that some people are very divisive online about how they feel he'll do in the role. So, yeah,
Hmm.
I'm kind of excited to see what happens with that.
For me, though, I mean, I'd rather just go in and just not really think too much. I like him, but I don't want to really think too much past that because, I mean, they're actors. You know, they can bring they can bring something new to every role that they play. So, yeah,
Yeah,
we'll just have to
from
see.
what I've seen of him, he's definitely talented enough to do that too. And he's a main character in A Perfect Getaway, and it is a thriller. And so I think he can definitely like bring like that heft you need to a role.
Mm-hmm.
And I can already tell from like the styling of him and his voice and the way he said that line that like they're definitely keeping the spirit of the character. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
All right. So next, we're gonna just do some broad predictions for the coming season. Do you think they're gonna finish out the first book and get into the second, or do you think it's just gonna be, because there's gonna be 4 seasons total, right? I got renewed for 3 and 4, and those are gonna be the last two. So we're gonna get a 4 season show. But yeah. So what do you think?
I think they're gonna finish it out, or at least what's in Wool. And I think they're gonna bring. I think like we were alluding to earlier, they're definitely gonna start bringing in more of that kind of setting the stage for books 2 and 3,
Mm-hmm.
and the world building, so that it kind of smoothly transitions into that.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's another thing you can do when you have this sort of finished source material, right? You can be more. Uh, Clever and judicious with how you like bring information in because you're not just like you have all the information and you can just
Yeah.
lay it out in the best possible way. So
Yeah.
I think they're going to make good use of the fact that um that's all written and done.
Yeah. They can do a lot of foreshadowing and stick things in, especially in a show where people like us like dissect screenshots and freeze frames and pick apart everything. I mean, last season on the subreddit we were like, and on the Discord we were freezing frames, and we were reading documents and things like that from props that they were thing, and we were like gleaning like we were like making like a map of the silo based on like very passing references and dialogue and stuff like that, and that was a lot of fun, but it must
Yeah,
be
I think with
hard.
visual Yeah, like with visual media, I feel like it's so easy to do that too, right? Like, what I loved about season 1 and what I think they'll bring more of to season 2 is like all of that feeling of like the stuff in the background, like
Mhm.
what made it from the old world, what didn't, what's prohibited, what's
Mhm.
not. Like you kind of you see all of that, and you can see it in glimpses and in background scenes. Whereas in writing, nothing's really background, when you're reading a narrative. So I think they can kind of put in a lot more detail without overwhelming people with it, and I'm excited to see that because it just adds to the world building and the backstory.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to watching. And like you're a fan of week to week, right? So it'll be good
Yep.
to, yeah, especially with a show like this where like you have a whole week to dissect everything and come up with theories and figure out what they showed us and everything. So I don't know. It'd be nice. And I kind of like that I don't remember a lot of the small details because I don't know, I can enjoy it just like everybody else.
Yeah, I actually love adaptations, and I'm not super nitpicky about them having done everything close to the book.
Hmm.
So I love when like good writing for TV can take the spirit of something and like,
Make it
make
its
it
own thing.
good for TV. Yeah, make it its
Yeah.
own thing and change it appropriately for the medium.
Okay, so community wise, the Silo series subreddit has grown a lot since the last season. I had looked it up, and when season one ended, we were at 23,000 members, and now we're at 30. And after the trailer dropped, we hit 36,000. So it's a gonna be there's gonna be a lot of discussion going on week to week. And then we have the Down Deep Discord server, which is a good place to chat about it and share screenshots and stuff like that, and pick things apart too. Um, but other than that, are you planning to rewatch the show before season two starts? I'm probably gonna do that in the next couple of weeks.
I probably wasn't gonna rewatch the entire show, but I might rewatch like the
The
last two
last episode.
episodes.
Mm.
Or yeah, the last episode. Yeah, to make sure that I'm kind of remember so I can segue right into the new season.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea because I actually just watched Lincoln Lawyer season three yesterday. I watched the whole show yesterday. We were supposed to record the podcast yesterday, and I felt sick, so I took the day off, and I just ended up watching that all day. But when I first started watching, I was like, oh my god, I'm so lost. I kind of wish that they had given like those previously on kind of things with the recap, but they didn't. So I don't know. Hopefully they'll have one of
Y-
those too for the people
Yeah,
who choose not to rewatch the show. So
I figure anything really important, will come up in the last couple of episodes or last episode, and if it was important before that, someone on Reddit will post about it
yeah,
at like a
yeah,
detail if there's a connection, and I'll be able to go, aha, I remember that too when I
yeah.
read their good post.
I don't remember. Did they put recaps in the at the start of the episodes before?
Um, I don't remember. I believe Apple does it for shows in general. I'm not quite sure if they did it at the start of every episode of season one, but I think they'll probably have a recap at the start of season
Hmm.
two. I watch a lot of Apple shows, and I do believe they have recaps.
Hmm. So going into that though, what have you been up to since the last season? What shows have you been watching? I know we both watched From, and that's really popular with Silo fans. I haven't
Yeah, I
started
was gonna
watching.
say, you know how much I love horror, so
Yeah.
I've been keeping up with From the new season. We're several episodes into it now. I've been watching Grotesquerie, which is a horror show from the creators of American Horror Story.
Hmm.
And I might start Teacup, which I is on Peacock, and I've heard very good things about it. It's actually another mystery box, and
Hmm.
people who like From apparently are really liking that right
Well, I
now.
haven't heard of that one. Yeah, I've been watching a ton of TV since season one. I think I did my full SVU rewatch, which was 25 seasons. As crazy as that sounds, I watched almost a full rewatch. I did almost a full rewatch of the X Files. I only watched
I
one
was
through.
gonna say I remember the X Files.
I
stuff
I
as you were
watched
talking
I
about
watched
it.
1 through
The
8, and then I
Mentalist.
watched 10. Yeah, I've watched I've I've gained a rather unhealthy obsession with The Mentalist. I've watched it 3 times this year. And there's 6.5 seasons, so that's kind of nuts. And then I just recently wrapped up 10 seasons of The Blacklist. I rewatched Fringe. I rewatched The Killing. I watch a lot of crime shows, so I kind of like that kind of detective mystery aspect of the first season of Silo. Um, but I'm really looking forward.
Yeah,
I love dystopia, so I'm really looking forward
same.
to.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm heavily into dystopias.
Mm,
So yeah, and horror. And I mean, I know Silo isn't quite horror, but it's definitely got some of those like creepy, thrillery aspects. So yeah, this year in general, though, there's been a lot of good stuff. I'm trying to think of stuff I've watched. Like
you know,
there was,
talking about dystopias though, it's actually funny. I can't remember if I've mentioned this before, but that's actually how I found Wool. I got really into the Hunger Games, and then because I was into that, I started reading a bunch of other dystopian novels, but they were all young adult, and they were all super irritating because um, I don't know, just something about teenagers being the one to save the world. It was starting to drive me crazy, and so I googled some kind of like I was googling dystopias with adults. I wanted an adult
yeah, I
protagonist,
know what you mean.
and
I read
somehow,
all of those as well.
yeah,
All of
and
those YA ones that were
like
clones of Hunger Games.
Divergent and Maze Runner and all of those things. I was reading all of those. I was like, oh my god, I'm so sick of these irritating children being the one to save the world. So I found Juliet, and I was very happy with her. So
I first heard about Wool, actually, of all things, my husband was the one to read it. My husband is not a reader. Like he'll read books occasionally, but he read it like when it came out, and he really liked it. And for some reason, I never picked it up. I don't even know why. Like I just didn't. And it was only much later, after you and I had met, that I even like considered
hmm,
wanting to read it, and there was no good reason for that. Like it kind of slipped my mind, which I think you can probably understand because,
yeah,
like you said, we're both
yeah.
editors and readers, so can't read every book in the world.
Okay, so I think that about wraps it up. Do you have any last thoughts?
No, just excitement. We're just about a month out, so
Yeah,
it's really coming close.
Sila comes back November 15th, and so that's less than a month away. Actually, what day of the week is it? Still Fridays? What day of the week is that? Yeah, Friday. So it'll be good weekend thing to do.
It's usually like a Friday morning thing for us. Like we
Hmm.
will get up early on a Friday and like have some breakfast and watch Silo. So we'll probably do the same thing this season.
I think they were releasing it at 9 Eastern on the Thursday before. Because I think I used to watch it in the mid afternoon, my time, because I'm in Hawaii, so I'm 6 hours behind Eastern.
I
9
don't
o'clock.
remember. It's possible, like sometimes Apple does release them the night before, but I also have known that sometimes very inconsistent. Like
Mm,
sometimes they would release episodes the night before the day and then sometimes they wouldn't. So I don't know. Either way, it's probably one of those cozy up on the couch on a Friday morning things,
mm.
and do it before having to do work.
Okay, well, that's about it. So, thank you for joining us for another episode of Wires from the Deep. If you're enjoying our podcast, be sure to tell other Silo fans that they can find us at wiresfromthedeep.com and leave us a review on your podcasting platform of choice. You can join the Down Deep Discord by going to thedowndeep.net and following the invite link to join discussions with other friends. And if you want to contact me and Angela, you can leave a comment on Podbean or on one of our YouTube videos, or you can email us at crystal@thedowndeep.net. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.